Charisma Quotient. I'm your host, Kim Seltzer, a dating and makeover expert, where I will help you build confidence, make connections, and find love from the outside in. Okay, I have a simple question. Are you having fun? I mean, I'm not just talking about in your dating life, but are you enjoying your life overall? Or are you bogged down with a lot of stress and seriousness right now? And that it's so hard to find that joy in anything. And if this is you, I don't care how many apps you're swiping, dates you're going on, or parties you are attending, if you are not happy and having fun, then dating is going to feel hard. And it's no wonder things aren't progressing in your love life. And you can do all the work. You can go to therapy, you go through the motions of dating. But if you are stressed out, depressed, or burned out, all those efforts will backfire for sure. I mean, life is supposed to be fun. Dating is supposed to be fun. And yes, there is a little bit of pressure to find someone you click with, but that doesn't mean you have to take things too seriously. In fact, again, that backfires when you try to go at it too seriously. Instead, try to approach dating with more of a lighthearted attitude and don't put so much pressure on yourself for dates. I talk a lot to you all, like a lot of you, and I'm really happy you do this. You take the opportunity to have a free call with me, and everybody can do that. You just click the link you see in the show notes. And the number one complaint right now is that you're just not having fun and you're not even laughing in your life. I remember there was this woman when I first spoke with her, and she just had no joy in her life. She was numbing out, swiping on profiles, working 12-hour workdays, taking care of everybody else but herself. And she admitted that she really didn't have time or energy to date, but she still had this strong desire to meet someone and have some fun in her life. And what we uncovered is that she was just busy being busy, because really, that was where her confidence was, and that she had a hard time letting go and being playful and having fun. And of course, this was all tied to her childhood, where she experienced some emotional abuse, and she had to survive by holding things in and pleasing her parents by taking care of things and being a high achiever. So she also was really scared of dating, because due to the repeated patterns of toxic relationships that she had later on, it actually became her love shield to protect herself from getting hurt and rejected. And so the first thing we did together was carve out playtime. I know that sounds really like elementary, but that's what she needed so that she could incorporate some laughter and lightness in her life. And we actually had to schedule that on her calendar. We put on her calendar in bright pink playtime because it was the only way to force herself to do that. And she started taking improv and dance lessons. I always make my clients do that, as you know, and just getting out into the world to be more social, talking to strangers. And then she signed up for my co-ed dating retreat program, which was awesome for her because she really needed that practice to learn how to date without auditioning men, because that's what she was doing, but feel more sexy in the body, be more present, have fun. And after 6 weeks with this community of men and women, she learned to let go and really be herself. And by the time she got to the retreat, I kid you not, she was sporting her red dress. She was wearing the cat ears that I made everyone put on. Well, not the guys, but the women. We were salsa dancing, and she was really comfortable in her body dancing with the men. And there was this huge breakthrough she had where she realized that there was a lot of emotion that she was holding on to. And after that program, she started dating up a storm. And yes, dare I say, she actually was having fun, not just with men, but in her life. It's okay to have a few bad dates or not hit it off with every person you meet. Dating is a learning process, and taking the good with the bad is important. And dating may be more complicated now than it used to be. I'm not going to lie, but it doesn't mean it has to be a chore. On the contrary, you can make the process more enjoyable by stepping back from technology, approaching dating in a lighthearted, joyful attitude, and focusing on the present moment and just being yourself. So, with me today is the queen of happiness, I'm calling her, who is going to help me talk about how to create a joy makeover in your life so that you can attract a happy and fulfilling love life. She is known as the joy magnet. I love that. She is an international motivational speaker, #1 best-selling author, and joy coach. She has built a community of over 150,000 followers and has reached over 10 million people. It's so inspirational. Her deep commitment to others is motivated by her own journey through childhood sexual abuse and other childhood traumas. And at 7 years old, she found herself having to use her voice on a witness stand to testify against a man who had abused her. She now uses her voice to speak around the world of self worth, mindset, overcoming obstacles, and how to live a joy filled life. Shari Alyse, are you there?
I'm here. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh my God. I couldn't wait to have you on. I mean, you and I met at Blue Talks with Corey Poirier, and it's like we talk about the law of attraction. It was instant attraction with you. I loved your whole message and your energy. And I didn't really know much about you. I just knew that your joy, it just emanates from you because you radiate that. And you kind of like walk the talk the walk. So thanks for coming on.
Absolutely. I was excited to be here. And I appreciate you saying that about people, when people hear the name or, when I come in the America's Joy Magnet, or I get people often think of this whole toxic positivity thing. And I
Uh,
went through years with that, though, from as you shared about, the childhood stuff. But the reason why I believe that I exude that is because I went through the darkness to come out the other side. And I make sure, as you said, to schedule time, that I schedule that joy time.
I love it. Well, if you don't mind, I'd love to hear more about your story. I mean, obviously, I know it's a painful one, but also I talk about this a lot. It's usually our adversity that are gifts in disguise, and that's what kind of thrusts us into doing what we do and inspire others. So I would love to hear more about that and then what kind of segued into what you're doing now.
Yeah, for sure. So the interesting thing about my story is, I've been sharing it since I was 7 years old, because I actually, when the abuse happened, it was by a stranger, but I had actually told on the man. And so I got on a witness stand and spoke out and spoke up and prosecuted the man. So it feels like I've been sharing this story for, well, it has been decades.
It has been. It
Yeah.
not just feels
And
like it has been. Yeah.
it has been. And it was, and I'm just going to age myself because whatever. It was 1981 when it happened.
Mm.
And nobody was talking about that at that time. I mean, there was no Me Too movement. There was, the first person that openly spoke about it was Oprah. And I was 12 years old when that happened. And that was the first time that I felt not so alone, or not that there was something wrong with me, that there was someone in this public eye that was sharing it. And she actually gave me hope and inspiration that it was possible to become this success and this inspiring person. And she was actually, and I say this wherever I can, she was that inspiration for me to keep going and to keep showing up. Um, but so yeah, so it was a one-time event. From a stranger, that happened by a stranger. And what that day specifically taught me, and of course I didn't know it at the time, but looking back at it, I learned that my voice had the power to help people
Mm.
and to harm people, because
Mm.
they found out that he had done this to other girls. So I was told at that young age that I was a hero, that I had stopped him. And of course, at that age, I didn't feel like a hero. I just felt scared, and I felt alone, and I felt like there was something wrong with me. But I knew that I had stopped him from doing it, but I also knew that I had put someone in jail.
Mhm.
And so I had to wrestle with that voice and finding my own power for decades, and being that people pleaser, showing up for other people, wanting to be the kind and nice person, and not, and feeling guilty about everything because of the way that I was made to feel. Anyway, with basically the long story short is that I disconnected with myself at that age at 7 years old. And it wasn't until many years later, and I write about it in my book, and it's not a plug for my book, but it's in detail in my book
Oh no,
about
plug away.
about
Please.
yeah, in Sedona, coming face to face with my 7-year-old self, who
Mm.
showed back up on the top of a vortex to reconnect with me. And I wasn't ready. And after a big breakup, I ended up doing the whole eat, pray, love thing and took off to Italy for a summer. And on one of my last days in that church, when it was nothing to do with religion or anything, but I was standing in a church and I heard a voice that said, "You weren't supposed to leave her. You were supposed to love her." And that meant about my 7-year-old self. And so I then took that journey of coming back to myself and reconnecting and finding who I was and what I loved. And in that journey is where I found my joy.
I just have chills the way you told that. I There's so much there. And thank you for sharing because I mean, I think so many I mean, everyone has experienced trauma in some
Mhm.
aspect of their life. And what I'm curious about is that I mean, there was like a dark place that you were in, and it's hard to crawl out of that. And I know a lot of times, like I'll talk to people and say, well, that's great for her, like she was able to do the eat, pray, love thing and and come out of it somehow. But like, what was it that really helped you get out of that dark place? Because you could fall victim to something like that. There's almost like a fork in the road that could happen to people.
Oh yeah. So absolutely true. And I do want to clarify that I couldn't do that eat, pray, love. Like I literally sold my life to do that, by the way. Like I sold all my belongings. I raised money. I did like the whole thing. I was set to do that. And I just wanted to share that because I would have been the same person that would have been like, well, it's nice to go and do that. But like when you are determined, you will find a way to do anything. And I, at that breaking point in my life, because this was the guy I was going to be married to, I, at that moment, said, I am going to go do that thing that I've always dreamed about doing, which was sitting in sidewalk cafes in Italy and writing my book and drinking wine and espresso and doing the whole thing. So, that doesn't answer that question, but I,
No, but that's a good buildup.
yeah, thank you. Thank you. So for me, it was a very dark place. And what that looked like for me was toxic relationships with others, toxic relationship with my body. I was severely obese. I ate. Well, you were talking about your clients in the beginning and about pushing everything down. I pushed every emotion down. Anything that wanted to come up, I pushed right back down. I was also very determined, though, at a young age to not be a victim. And so I kept hearing that word and I was like, I am not going to be that person. And so I took every step possible to not be that. But that also included not facing the trauma and not facing my emotions, and eating them and hanging out with lots of men and
Mm,
trying to get love that way. And so there isn't an easy answer for anyone, Kimmy. Like there isn't that
mhm.
one step. But what I continually did was try to grow each day. And every day, try to get more in touch with myself and go, okay, that does not feel good. It literally came down to on certain days, like, does this feel good? Meaning,
Mm.
does the way the person's talking to me feel good? Does putting this in your body feel good? There was always that check in and that self awareness and self forgiveness and self compassion. And all of that led to just every day getting a little bit further and a little bit further until it's like you turn that corner one day and you find yourself with a smile that you weren't expecting there. And it is a journey. And that's why I named my book Love Yourself Happy, a journey back to you.
That is that's really nice. And you and I were talking off air just now about like really it's the joy within, it's like so many times, especially when you're going through something like that, it's easy to try to get that outside validation or that outside happiness, but that never really is fulfilling. It's like an empty vessel that just,
Yep.
and so what's impressive in what you're saying, and I do think that's true. I mean, first having the awareness
That's
that you're
it.
doing it. I mean, because so many times, like my client I talked about, like you're just numbing out, you're going through the motions, thinking that you're doing something, but you're not really feeling it. And for you to allow yourself to be aware, then feel it and say, "Ooh, I don't like this," and then do something about it. Like I think those steps are so huge because if you miss any of those steps, you're not being authentically you.
Yeah. And it's hard, honestly, like to lay out the exact path for everybody, but it
Mhm.
does absolutely start with the awareness. You know what? Like, I don't feel good. I don't like what my life looks like right now. I'm not happy in this place. And being able to admit that to yourself and know that it doesn't mean that it's a sentence to a life of unhappiness. It just means, oh, okay, I have the awareness of that. So now that I know, I can do something about it. There was a turning point. That was one of these nights. I was dating a lot.
Oh,
Like
yeah, I wanna hear about this dating a lot. Yeah, you mentioned that. I'm like, "Ooh, save it for the podcast."
yeah, so I've been engaged twice in my life. Once to my high school sweetheart. And I found out he had been unfaithful to me about 6 months after he proposed to me. So and we were young. It was like my junior year of college or sophomore year of college. But that like that broke me. I mean, because for me, he was the first person in high school that I had felt safe with since I was a young girl. And so I had opened up
Mm.
to him. He was like that, just that safe place for me. And so when that happened, it was as if like everything had fallen apart and I was like left in the middle of the ocean with like, by myself. Just it was empty. Anyway, um I shut down, and so I couldn't date. But I was trying to find love, via physical stuff with men, and I ended up being, I said this to you before, like single for, and I say this 5,673 days. It didn't mean that I didn't go on dates. I was like online dating when online dating was first coming out, and I was going on 5 dates a week. Um, it was also after I had lost a lot of weight, so I was feeling really confident in
Ah.
myself, and so I was like, "Well, I'm going to see what this new life looks like with dating." And I always say, like, I could have written a coffee table book on some of these dates because I ended up with like the stories. The guy and he comes back to my place and he's trying on my clothes. Like, I had every kind of guy that you could like imagine. But I always chose the men ultimately that I wanted to pursue were the ones that were just emotionally unavailable
Mm.
and always like wanted to spend time with me as a friend, but couldn't commit. And it was, that safe place. Anyway, the long story, one night I was hanging out with my male best friend and I just said, I don't understand why all of these men keep treating me like this and what's wrong with me. And he looked at me straight in the eyes and we had had some drinks. And so it was like one of those sloppy conversations, but I
Mhm.
remembered it though. And he said, Shari, what kind of woman do you see yourself as? And I just like rattled off, well, she's confident and she loves herself and she doesn't take like all this stuff. And he looked at me and he said, so be her.
Ooh.
And so as an actress at that time, I was like, oh, well, I think I can do that. And so the guy that I was currently seeing, who was not treating me well, that first day that I got a text from him, which was the next day, I said to myself, what would a confident, self loving woman do right now? And the answer was, I wouldn't text him back. And so I started with that one little step. And then that one thing that felt good when I did that turned into another until my life started changing.
That's fantastic. Really what you were doing was dating yourself, right? Like
Yes.
you were learning as you went through these different dates, and the different things that you wanted, which is so great. And I love how you kind of reverse engineered it where you're like, "Oh, well, when I give too much, I'm kind of getting these like takers and toxic people, and when I pull back and be in receiving mode, oh, I'm getting a little bit healthier interactions. And I think that's just it. And with that, did you find that you were having more joy with the dating?
Oh yeah, because I was,
Yeah.
because I was respecting myself. Like I was
Yeah.
making choices for myself. And the more that that part of me showed up and felt good about myself, it allowed me to appreciate myself, have more fun, make better choices, go out with people who, were lighter and brighter, all of that.
Because you were lighter and brighter.
Yes. Yeah. I was attracting exactly who I am and what, and I think that joy comes from, I don't think I know this, joy comes from
Mhm.
the full expression of ourselves. So the part of us
Mm.
that's not dimmed, the part of us that shows up authentically and as ourselves and isn't trying to please or trying to show up for somebody else, but is literally standing in our truth and our power and our confidence and stands there and says, this is me, love me or leave me, but I'm going to be me. And in that, we allow ourselves. That's why kids are so filled with joy, because they haven't been dimmed by the world yet. And that's who we return back to when we allow ourselves to be ourselves.
I say that all the time. Like kids are the best, aren't
The
they? Like
best.
when I teach flirting, I talk about that. Is like just watch kids. Yeah, they're the best flirts because they're so present. They're not in their head. They haven't developed filters yet, and they're just playing. I remember I was walking the other day, and there was this kid about 4 years old, and he was running towards me, and he goes, "I'm running." Like, it's this thing I'm like, "Why did we stop that? Like, why can't we walk into a social event or place and say, 'I'm having a drink and I'm having fun?'" Like, it's just that
Yes, the freedom,
the freedom, yeah.
without worrying what anybody, like fitting
Right.
in. I know, like, and you say it like I just spent recently time with kids, and this little girl comes up to me and she's like, I found this stone. Do you know that you can get it on Amazon for $165? And I found it. And she was like, and it's me. And she started like, and it was just the most random and it was the most joyful. Like, I was like, oh my God, I love you. Like, I love children. Like, this is who, and there's none of the filter. Like you said,
Yeah,
there's no filter.
and
And
it's
that's where joy is.
well, joy and attraction, quite honestly, like, I believe that chemistry gets created from the joy. Well,
Mm.
I was curious, are there certain tips that you give people on how to have more joy in their life?
Oh yeah. Well, first always is for self-kindness. Like
Mhm.
that's number one, because we are often not, well, yeah, often we are so hard on ourselves. We are judgmental towards ourselves. We always think that we need to be somewhere else than where we are. And so I always say, start with that positive self-talk. Um, because when you set up that loving space within, then you are more resilient. Than when those challenging, darker, harder times come, you get to be more buoyant. You bounce back because you have that soft landing pad. So kindness to yourself is definitely a place for more joy. Um, Connection to self. So I call they're my 5 sparks. So,
Mm.
and yeah, my 5 sparks. And when you connect to them, when you plug into them, that's where joy lives. So it's connection to ourself, it's connection to others, it's connection to our creativity, to meaning and purpose, and to the planet, so nature.
Mm.
And so if people connect to these daily, even if it's just one, but that's where joy thrives. It is enlivened, it wakes up. And they've even done research that says that joy exists in the connection to things that are important. And I like to think that we are important.
I love that. Can you give an example of just because
Mhm.
I'm so about the how to,
Yeah.
like with one of the sparks, like what is one way that they could achieve that?
Yeah. So connection for me, like, is self is most important, as I
Right.
said. So that can look like meditation for some people. For me, that looks like taking walks in nature, which
Mm.
is two of my sparks, because it's being out in nature, which of course creates a sense of awe. It keeps us from ruminating in the back of our heads. Like, it opens up that space so we are allowing more to flow to us. And also, I have that my monkey mind shuts down when I'm walking. And so I'm able to just be fully present. And I always say joy lives in the presence of now, always. So That's connection to self. And you could do it through dance. You can have it through dance. Like whenever you just feel fully connected to yourself, that's a way. Connecting to others. So for me, that really looks like making sure that, I am reaching out to somebody, or in conversation, I'm fully listening to somebody, being fully present with them. Because when you're fully present with someone, there is that magic and that chemistry that happens, and that enlivens us. Meaning and purpose, loving what you do every day, or finding the why underneath it. There's so many different ways, and I know we're on limited time. So those are a few examples of practical things that you can do every day to create more joy.
I love that. Well, and obviously people should get your book to find out more.
There might be some tips in there.
A little teaser right there. But no, this is, and I don't think people pay enough attention to play and joy as part of being fulfilled in your dating life, just everything, in every aspect of your life, your work life, that kind of thing. So it was funny. There was a study done, and I can't remember exactly where it was, but the research showed that the number one thing that people look for in a potential partner is somebody who has like happiness and fun. Like it's
Yeah.
that like kind of,
Yeah.
attraction piece. Cause like to your point about the kids, like that we're all kids,
Yeah.
by nature.
In big
And
bodies.
yeah, we just kind of things happened, to us where we shut that part of us down. So I love that you're focused on this and that you're helping so many people bring joy to their lives. So I could go on and on with you. And in fact,
I
I know
know.
I'm going to have you on my dating IRL show. So for those of you listening, stay tuned for that because there's just so much more to talk about.
For
So,
sure.
yeah, like maybe is there any kind of parting words of wisdom that you want to share, and also where people can find you in your book?
Words of wisdom. Yes, there is. I would say that acceptance, allowing yourself to accept where you are in this moment without any resistance to it, will
Mm.
open up a space for more joy. Because we're always trying to be somewhere else. We're always wanting something else. We always think we should have something else or be further ahead. And that is the biggest joy killer of them all. But when you're able to sit in this moment and go, I have enough, I am enough, I'm doing enough, joy will rise. ShariAlyse.com is the best place that they could find me, and all my socials are on there. I'd love for you. I do fun videos every day on TikTok and Instagram. So those are my socials of choice.
Awesome. Yes, everyone check her out. She's amazing. Shari, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me. So excited.
So thanks for joining me today. This has been the Charisma Quotient. I'm your host, of course, Kimmy Seltzer. And remember, you can build confidence, make connections, and find love from the outside in. And if you want to know more, make sure you go to my site, kimmyseltzer.com. And if you're not feeling a spark of joy or flirtiness in your life, I actually have two new upcoming opportunities for you. First, join me May 23rd for my next co-ed interactive workshop. It's called Flirting Made Easy, where you will learn to unleash your natural charm and charisma. And hey, this is not your typical workshop because let's face it, if you are going to be in another dull talking head Zoom meeting, I'm sure you're probably over that by now. And I know you're busy. I've cut out a lot of the fluff and really focus on the most effective flirting techniques. So you'll leave the workshop inspired, confident, and ready to navigate the dating world with a fun, positive attitude. Everyone who takes my workshops, they all say that they get this kind of renewed energy afterwards. So click the link you see in the show notes and register, but hurry, these spots do tend to go quick. Now, the other thing that I wanted to let you know is that I have another co-ed dating retreat program coming up, and it starts in June and meets in July. It's called Dating Reimagined, and it's going to be here in Southern California, right on the beach. If you are interested, definitely contact me and just go to askKimmy.com and inquire about it. We can hop on the phone and see if it's a fit. I actually am almost half full already, and I'm just announcing it. So these spots are going fast. Let's chat sooner than later. And remember, working on you is working on your dating life. That's all for now.